r/AskReddit by Reddit. Doctors of Reddit, what was your "this person is obviously ducking, lying/faking" moment? Not mine but my mother's, an ER doc at the time. Scruffy guy, mid-50s, comes in looking for non-specific help. Confused, smelly, dressed in ragged mismatched thrift store suit, clearly homeless and just looking for a bed. Keeps muttering something about quantum, obviously a little off his rocker. Mom decides, might as well give him a workup and teach the residents. Turns out the guy's in near total renal failure, so they give him dialysis. Snaps to suddenly coherent, suddenly sane, suddenly talking about real actual quantum physics. Turns out he's a math professor. Some organ problem sent him into a mental tailspin on his way to a conference a month earlier. Got off train in wrong city. Been wandering the streets ever since. Missing and presumed dead. They are not always faking. Had a part fake ruptured ectopic pregnancy to get narcotics. Says she was diagnosed with an ectopic at another hospital and given medication to end it. Came into our hospital in extreme abdominal pain, rolling around, yelling, had vaginal bleeding, the whole 9 yards. Gave her a bunch of pain medication so we could get an ultrasound. Ultrasound showed nothing. Urine pregnancy test showed nothing. Beta HCG was 0. Turns out she was conveniently on her period, which made the whole thing very convincing. Got records from the other hospital. Patient had been there yesterday, but was not pregnant for them, nor was she diagnosed with an ectopic pregnancy. Definitely was a wow, she just made up this entire thing. We had a lovely conversation about all the results. She ended up screaming at me, threatening to sue me for all I'm worth, and stormed out. Jokes on her, I'm worth minus 200k of student loan debt. EMS here. Had a patient start seizing in front of the cops after they were pulled over for possible drunk driving. We get there and patient is still on and off seizing. We get them on the stretcher and in the back of the ambulance. Surprisingly, the cop joins us. As I take their arm, the shakes start up again. So I tell them, yo, if you want this medication, I need you to stop so I can start an IV real quick. Patient stops to let me start the line, and once I say I'm done, they start back up. Not a doctor, but a hearing aid dispenser in private practice. Had a patient come in for a hearing test, young guy in his mid-20s, which is already unusual. Main issue is that he's getting noise complaints about his music. No issues with his ears physically, so I do the hearing test, basically ends up with a profound hearing loss. Weird because that's basically sign language territory there. I walk behind him and ask him what his plans are for the evening, to which he responds appropriately. Definitely what we call a non-organic hearing loss. He was trying to get the results he wanted to justify being a duck of a neighbor. ER doctor. Had the worst person in the world with fake seizures that could only be cured by Dilaudid, the most potent opiate that can be administered in the hospital IV. Usually, seizures aren't treated by opiates. This lady was insufferable, and she knew all the rules. She would make sure her enabling husband, IQ 50, came in so she had a driver, so she could get knocks. If we didn't give knocks, he would shut that place down, screaming and threatening. She would spy the parking lot to see which doctors were working. BC Dilaudid. Well, one day I ducking had it. She had brought her son, IQ normal, to the ER. He had a learner's permit, she reassured me, and she started fake seizing and screaming. I just let her go. Then she got threatening, so I called security, and I was the first person to ever get her removed. She then proceeds to walk out the doors with her son, and not 15 minutes later she is back in the ER as a trauma, full collar and all. She says she's gonna sue me, that she went outside, had a seizure, fell, and is in more pain. Dilaudid. So I stop her right there and walk to security around the corner and look at the security tape. She very clearly looked around, made sure no one was looking, then gently lay down in a mangled position. In the video it looked like her son said duck this, and he literally walks away and walks several miles home. I went and cleared her from her C-collar and backboard after calling police. They came and didn't do anything. She was back 2 days later. I'm an EMT, if that counts, so here's a good one. About 85% of the calls we receive, at least in my town, are issues where they clearly aren't severely injured and just think, if I call 911, I'll get into the hospital faster. Pro tip, you still wait like everybody else, unless you're actually dying. Another part of this percentage of people are ones that just want attention/medication. We had a woman recently that decided that she was gonna have a seizure in the ambulance. A real seizure, put simply, usually looks like they're just tensing up and twitching in one position. This lady was flailing every part of her body everywhere and trying to spit everywhere. Not only was it clearly fake, but we had to clean up the damn mess she made. We'd usually let it slide, but I pulled out a nasal airway and a lube packet and said loudly to my partner, we need to stabilize her breathing. I'll put in the airway in a second. Just let me apply the lube so it doesn't tear open her nose like it usually does. The instant I said it, she stopped having her seizure. Unrelated story, but we also had another woman that claimed she couldn't get up after a fall in her house. We arrived to her entire house being locked, so we called through a window that was cracked to see if there was any other way inside besides breaking through her screen. She proceeds to stand up, go to the front door, unlock the door, walk back to where she was, and lay back down. We did a generic checkup and there was clearly nothing wrong. When she said she didn't want to go to the hospital and we were about to leave, she stopped us and asked us to call Comcast for her, since we are the EMS and are a higher priority. TLDR. Fake seizures and faking an injury to have EMS call Comcast for you. Edit. Wasn't clear in first post, didn't insert the nasal airway, just said that I was, so she'd stop faking a seizure and making a mess. I'm a medical assistant. Had this teenage girl, probably 16, come in saying that her wrist was broken. Her mom was behind her rolling her eyes after every time she would tell me how bad it hurt. She then proceeded to flop it in an attempt to show me how bad it hurt. When she did that, she said it was clearly broken and she would need a cast. I said I would take her back and let the doctor do some x-rays and do their thing. The mother asked to talk to me outside of the room, and she told me her daughter's friend recently got a cast and her daughter was notorious for being overly jealous. I just responded by saying that if there were anything wrong, it would show up in the x-ray. Guess what? She didn't get a cast and threw a fit. Last I saw her was her crying and throwing a temper tantrum outside of the waiting room and being dragged out by her very embarrassed mom. PA not a doctor, and I have a couple, but when I was on my clinical rotations, one of the funny things I remember was on my ER rotation. A lady was in complaining of some vague, generalized pain. Had a feeling she was malingering. I started a neuro exam and was testing her cranial nerves. Asked her to keep her head still and follow my pen. She was clearly focusing on the wall behind me and not tracking my movements. I said again, no, follow the pen with your eyes. She said over and over that she can't and that she's really trying and this must be really bad. So I moved on to another exam, and while talking with her and holding her attention, I walked around her bed from one side to the other. She tracked me with her eyes the whole time. It was the same rotation we had someone feigning seizures in order to get at even. Might have been the same lady on a separate occasion, now that I think of it. I'm a therapist, but I do diagnosing if that counts. I had a woman in my office claiming she had multiple personalities. DID is a kinda of a sticky diagnosis to begin with, but that's she was claiming that she could talk to different personalities and then bring them out if she needed to. All of this seemed like it could potentially be more of a psychotic disorder or attention seeking. Then she introduced me to her girlfriend, who also had multiple personalities, which they started naming, most of which were based on candy or Disney princesses. Notably the bad one was called the Beast. Edit. I actually asked her if she had seen the movie Split during our session. She said it was a coincidence. Not a doctor, but I'm a patient who lied. Before my sobriety I did some doctor shopping. After that got hip I'd have to go around to urgent cares and stuff. I ended up needing something badly, so went to my GP. I've been going to him for years, like since I was 18. I told him I was sober and had tooth pain and back pain and other pains and had tried everything against what he was supposed to do. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, both of us know what you're saying right now is complete horse poo. Turns out my doctor was in AA. I ended up leaving after crying for 30 minutes. Got sober within the next 6 months. He goes to my home group and is still my doctor. Edit. This was in 2015. Sobriety/clean date is the 3rd of May 2016. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comments section below.